I'm so thrilled to let you know of the birth of my new talk show, The Elephant in the Room. Here we address the unaddressed, amplify and uncover all the facts, truths and perceptions surrounding closeted and unspoken subjects, all the people don't talk about. If I'm not here alone, I'm here with a guest or two, and you can definitely count on relatable content, free advice, tips and tactics, all served here for your consumption. Your meal is served. This episode is sponsored by The Grandson. Hello everybody, it's your host Stacey here, and like I promised, if I'm not here alone, I'm here with a guest or two, and in today's episode I'm here with a special guest. So he's in another part of the world and he couldn't be here physically, but he is tuned in, and together we will be addressing the elephant, careers for mum and dad. At what point does it stop? At what point do you forge your own path? Special guest, tell us, when you were 5, what did you want to be when you grew up?
I wanted to be a soldier. I think I wanted to be a soldier until I was like nine or so. And after that, I wanted to be a soccer player. And yeah, I'm now training to be a pilot.
A soldier? Oh wow. So 5-year-old you wanted to be a soldier. It's funny because years later, today, you're not a soldier. Nowhere close to it. And I'm sure there's probably some cartoon or TV show that might have inspired us back in the day. And at about 15, 16, perhaps, I think 16 is like the prime of teenagehood. And that's where a lot of changes take place. So at 16, what do you want to be?
At 16, I wanted to be a pilot. But to be honest with me, I knew from, I think, the age of 12-ish. That's when I was like, yeah, I want to do this.
Alright, so based on what you wanted to be when you were 5 versus when you were 16, what happened there? We can probably call it growth. You grew up and you saw things in a different light. You started extra subjects, maybe started watching other shows, etc. And I know you, 16-year-old you, is exactly where you are today, years later. So exactly what 16-year-old you envisioned for your future is where you are now. But it's not everybody that has that privilege. You know, it's not everybody that has the privilege of pursuing exactly what they desire. And I think that's the core of today's elephant.
Funny enough, my love for soccer was the reason for the change. Because, like I said, at first I wanted to be a soldier, then a soccer player. So, 2012, I went on tour to South Africa playing soccer for the first time. Then 2015 to Germany. So, I fell in love with the flying. So, I spoke to one of the pilots and he told me the process, how it goes. Yeah, and I fell in love with it. I also fell out of love with soccer when I went on tour in 2015. That's when I saw, actually, soccer at the professional level, I'm not cut out for this. And the position I was playing, I was way too short to even play.
2 tours, 2 separate tours playing soccer. And obviously, these were not done in the closet. Your parents, guardians, they had to have been aware of your developing desire and passion towards the sport, as well as the tours. They had to be aware that you were going on tour for soccer. How did they receive this? When you went on your first tour, that was one thing, and it was another thing going on the second tour. How did they see that? Because at that point, I'm sure they started to see how this could actually become a thing for you. Not just going on tour, but maybe career-wise. How did they receive that?
Unfortunately, my parents were actually not supportive in me playing soccer as a career choice. They would support me, like they would buy me boots, gloves, pay for tours, but for them to see me as a soccer player, nah, they are traditional, let me say, Zimbabwean parents, education is key to everything. So, yeah.
That's it right there. Traditional African parent. Those three words in one sentence. So I wouldn't want to stereotype and say every African parent is this traditional and they only view white collar careers or corporate careers as the way. But I think it is apparent in a lot of households that this is the norm, this is the thinking, this is the belief. And in most cases, creatives as well as artistic professions are swept under the rug. I like how you brought out the fact that you may have had the support in terms of them facilitating your attendance of these tours, them making sure you always had the equipment, you probably attended your trainings. But in terms of the emotional side of things, the side where you would hear them say, yes, my son, you're a very good soccer player. We see a future for you with this. Keep going. You can definitely go further with this. That was absent. And those two aspects of support are quite relevant, both of them together. And you find that in most African households, you have one and never two at the same time. If they pay for your trainings, if they buy you equipment, if they take you to the sessions, you're privileged. But having them actually see that potential and believe in you to further in that particular sport, in that particular artistic career or creative career, that's a whole different topic. And that's where our conversation resides today. Careers for mom and dad. So right at the beginning of the episode, I posed a question. Two questions rather. I see it. At what point does it stop? At what point do you forge your own path? And similar to your situation, yeah, every other child is going through this scenario where if they are talented, perhaps in music, they can dance, they can sing, they can play an instrument, they can swim, they can play sport, tennis, basketball, rugby, all that. If they're talented in non-academic fields, there's lack of that support to further in those non-academic fields, non-academic careers, because it's academics first. It's got to be academics first. So here's a follow-up question. Should the financiers, the investors of your education have a say in what career you pursue? If they should, to what extent? Should they just be able to guide you? Should they just be able to say, we think 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? Or should they actually determine which path you take? Or what do you think? Based on what you went through?
Yeah, to a certain extent, I mean, they're the ones paying, but our goals, our aspirations as people are all different. So I think a child must be free to choose what they want to pursue, because at the end of the day, imagine you're forced to do something you don't want to do in uni. You've wasted 3-4 years. You go do a job you probably don't like, which is not your passion. So you're never motivated. But yeah, no, especially in Zimbabwe, times are kind of evolving. Parents are starting to see, like, actually, there's money in sports, there's money in music. But I also, to some extent, do understand them. They always want you to have a fallback option in case your music career doesn't work out or the sports don't work out. You've got something to fall back on.
So, for the people that are talented, perhaps in music, sport, art, anything in line with the creatives and non-academical, and those people that didn't get the chance to pursue the non-academic careers, when does it stop for them? Because perhaps during their high school, when it comes to selection of subjects, they have to select the subjects that their parents dictate on them. They take those subjects on maybe 2-3 years. University, because of the subjects that they've taken up in high school, these are the subjects that perhaps influence their degree program or their courses, their diplomas. And like you said, they take on 3, 4, maybe even 5 years pursuing this. And this is not where their heart lies. This is not what they want. So at what point does it stop? Should they take on the 5-year, 4-year, 3-year degree course or diploma, get the certificate, hand the certificate to their parents and say, Mom and Dad, as you requested, here you go. And then at that point, turn back and start doing what they want. Now, the question is, are they starting from university level, or are they starting from a lower level, which is probably them trying to cover up for even the high school years lost of not having the chance to explore those avenues? And if it's not that, perhaps should they antagonize, should they refuse to take on these subjects, these degree programs, these courses, these diplomas that their parents want them to take on? Should they refuse? And obviously refusing is consequences, because like we said, these are the financiers, these are the investors of your education. And imagine saying, no, Mom, no, Dad, I don't want to be a pilot. I have a strong passion for rapping. I love R&B. I love hip-hop. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to do songwriting. And yeah, consequences. Because Mom and Dad could simply just say, in that case, we cannot continue to fund for your education because we don't see the potential of success or future in that industry. What then?
That's a tough one. It's very tough because on one hand, if you do refuse, who's going to finance? There's that aspect. For me, what I did, I had my uncle, my dad's little brother. I had him explain to my dad, like, you know how times are evolving and stuff. And that's how he opened up to letting me do this. Otherwise, I'd be doing some engineering degree or something out there. So it's really a tough one. Now, the first step is actually getting them to see your vision and to get them to believe in your vision, then invest in your vision. So that's a very tough thing to do. And if you can't do that, then I'm sorry, you're just going to have to do what they make you do. Because how many people do you know did sciences, not because they loved them, but because they passed them at Form 4 and their parents are like, these are the subjects you're going to do, you know, MPC opens all the doors, that kind of thing.
I actually fall under that statistic amongst the people that did sciences because parents believed MPC is the way to go. Biology, chemistry, math is the way to go. Yeah, I really identify with what you just said there. You have to make them see your vision. You have to make them believe in your vision. And if they can't see it through your eyes, then yeah, you're probably going to be pursuing a career for Mom and Dad. Shakespeare said, the time is gone, the words are spoken, the deed is done. And I felt that. When it's done, it's done. You don't want to waste away 3, 4, 5 years of your life pursuing a career you have zero interest in. Because after the academic life is done, you're going to have to make a living from that career. You're going to have to allow that career to sustain you. And I mean, the average retirement age is 65 in Africa. And I think it's the same world over. So imagine 40 plus years of being in this field, in this industry, where you have zero interest. That's going to really, really suck, waking up every day in episode 1, we spoke about the weight of living. These are some of the things that just make it heavier to wake up every day and be motivated, because you have no passion, no excitement, no motivation to do what you're waking up to do. So, yeah, you definitely want to bring in some of these relatives or these people that may have influence on your parents. I think in your case, it really worked for you. You know, your uncle really did a big one for you there. You owe him big time, because you definitely could be in a whole different field today and probably unhappy and not motivated at all. Any parting words before we wrap up careers for mom and dad?
Topic careers for mom and dad. I think in this day and age, that has to change. What men can do, women can also. And don't limit yourself. Yeah, I know, especially when you come from Africa, to break through into unconventional field is hard. But if that's where your passion is, you're going to have to find a way to make to people sponsoring see your vision. That's the only way.
Deep stuff. Very deep stuff. And as always, food for thought.